All right, post Dutch Grand Prix, I'm pretty stoked, minus the catastrophic failure of my favorite driver. I did not have high hopes for this after the sprint, to be honest. The sprint was like a mega snoozer, which they tend to be able to be very different, obviously, race length, strategy. Um, but this was a good race. I enjoyed. We'll get into it. A quick apology if I am low energy. I do not feel well, so Kyle might take a heavy part of the load on
Toughing it
this one.
out.
It's more of just to
Toughing
crank
it
it
out.
out. So, what's your thoughts? Your boy got 2 wins in a row. That's all you need to
Back
know.
to back, baby. Um, don't call it a comeback. 83 points. He's got 20 fewer points than Max was able to overcome last season, so it's not over.
I
Um,
mean, it's doable. Even the, I don't remember what commentator said it, but um, it's like normally I wouldn't reference this, but after Max's performance last year, who knows?
we talked about this in our pre-race predictions. I think McLaren is going to have the pace at certain tracks and not at others. So when I look ahead, a couple weeks down the road, we're going to Monza. I do not see them up at the front. I think that's going to be Ferrari, Mercedes. Um, but on the right tracks, I think they've got a podium capable car. If I'm being real honest, I don't think he's got a shot at coming back at this, but it's exciting that he's now just a little bit more in the mix.
Yeah, I think even if the car wasn't fully there this weekend, I think Norris has been solid this year. We've talked about it. I think the beginning of the year was tough. You have some failures, you have some issues you're dealing with, but he has sort of drug that car around for the first, I don't know, let's say 6 races. And then if you go in and look at his points, you could tell kind of when you see an uptick in performance and the car being more reliable. I think today was just a great race by him. He did definitely downplay performance this weekend. Um,
Yeah, they're
there,
playing their cards close to their chests. I don't think we've got the pace. I want more pace. I don't think we can fight at the front. Uh, Front rows, sprint and race, and on the podium for both. So, um, yeah, it was interesting to see. I'm with you. The sprint race, a bit of a snoozer. I think we got robbed of a very dramatic end there with the weather. Would have been
oh, slap
real cool
three
to see
laps onto
that.
the end of that. Yeah, would have been
Yeah,
wild.
it would have been a great finish. But I think the thing that concerned me as a McLaren fan was both Oscar and Lando seemed to really struggle on the tires. And you and I had some conversation back and forth was, are they pushing too hard and that's why they're just eating into their tires, they're not managing them, and that's why they're getting higher deg. Or is this a car issue? It seemed to be really the first one, because once we got into race pace, particularly, I think the thing that won Lando this race was his last stint, where Kimi was not comfortable on these tires, and Lando just pedaled to the floor, made it happen. Kimi came in on the virtual safety car, put softs on, and it was pretty ambitious. It was something like 13 or 14-second gap that he would have had to make up in order to climb back and fight with Lando. But once George let him through, I still think it was incredibly optimistic. But Lando basically stopped it there. It was 11-second gap when he came through, and it finished with an 11-second gap. So Lando on these, I don't know how many lap old hards,
Had to be
was
20
equaling the
something at the
pace
end. Didn't
of
really pay attention.
yeah, was equaling pace of Kimi on fresh softs. So pretty convincing win there for Lando, particularly that end of the race performance.
Yeah, just, I mean, solid performance. Can't, well, actually, I can say more than that. I think I have to make a second category for my favorite overtake of the year because I think Max has the ballsiest overtake of the year with his dive bomb, but I think Lando has the most precise one because that move at turn one won him the race. Seeing
Mm-hmm.
Kimi take an inside line to try to make a move on Hamilton. Lando in his post race interview, hey, I did a couple of clicks on my brake bias. Like I knew that was my opportunity. Kind of same situation where Max is like, this is my chance in Hungary. Like this is the only way I'm going to make this happen. Lando kind of saw that like, this is my opportunity to get in front of Kimi. He did, and then you probably were saying the whole time on that lap, I was just sitting there thinking, if he gets by Hamilton, he gets a buffer. You have to get by Hamilton for a buffer, or else he potentially had a different story, or a little bit more of a fight. I think Lando had the pace. Yeah, well done. Good race. I definitely think they played their cards close to their chest, and Monza will be a fairly big indicator. I think they'll be third
Yeah.
best there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the interesting thing for me was we saw maybe the beginnings of a new Lando here this weekend. Like, particularly, he had some comments in interviews that were a little bit punchier. He poked fun at some of McLaren's mistakes from last season about, not pitting in Qatar. And I forget what the other one was, but there was some other blunder. I forget, was it incident or DNF or something. But he was kind of poking fun at his own team there. I saw a pretty good meme that it was Max. He said, I taught him that. It's a very Max Verstappen
This
type
is
of
my
answer.
child.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, especially in his post race interview, I didn't actually enjoy it because I liked Lando because he was an underdog, and it was not the most humble, humble,
Humal. I understood
humble,
you.
humble interview, and kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I don't know. I'm hoping he can find the balance. It seems like he's like exploring this new like champion
Yeah,
era
he's figuring out
ego
the vibe
thing,
now.
like what kind of driver he wants to be, and he's in a weird place. So I don't know.
Oh, so
It's
yeah,
kind
you have these like established champions where it's like everyone knows who Max is. Max is always Max, doesn't really change. But at the start of his career, he definitely was like rough around the edges. Like, he kind of had I think of the Red Bull, had like 10 Red Bull cans a day, flat brim, like, 16-year-old, like, who the frick is this guy? I think he is. And then like Lewis has a certain, um, for lack of a better term, this seems a bit good for Lewis. He has like an aura to him, but
Mhm.
crankier aura with Ferrari. We'll get to that. Yeah, Lando's figuring out who he is now, I guess. I could
Yeah.
imagine that's hard to manage though. Like you fight for something your entire life and now you've achieved it and now you're carrying on of trying to continue that success. And the
I,
expectation now is if we have the car for you, you can win a championship.
yeah. And I think performance wise, he's living up to that. I think it's the off the track stuff that he's navigating right now. So, but he's had, aside from Japan, he's had Oscar's number for the entire season. Uh, so it's very interesting to see how close those two were last season. And for whatever reason, you know, I think Oscar was kind of fighting with one arm tied behind his back today. He was on the alternate strategy, and that kind of screwed with his race results and his pit strategy. He started on the hards. I think pit again onto the hards, like
He wasn't having a good
13,
time.
14 laps in. And yeah, just kind of a weird race for Oscar. So I don't know. We did our driver rankings earlier this year. I think it'd be interesting to revisit it now that we've seen have a little bit of a larger sample size of drivers in these cars.
I agree. I think Oscar might not enjoy the driving style of these cars or having a car that's not an absolute rocket ship is showing Lando's overall like driver abilities
Well,
versus
the
Oscar.
conf- the confusing thing to me is they're still so close over one lap. Like they are still like 200ths away from one another in qualifying. Like consistently, they're like sub 1/10 difference over one lap. And so it's really race pace. And maybe it has to do with battery
I
management.
would
It's a
say it
lot
could be
easier
a
to manage a battery
development.
over one lap
Yeah, it could be a
than over
development
a
thing
race.
over a
But
race because I would imagine there's a lot. Well, not even imagine. There's a lot more on the fly, kind of like I talked about. Lando is like, oh, I need to change my brake bias. Like all the drivers know how to do that, but now we have a different battery deployment, and I would imagine for qualifying, they probably go over like, hey, this is the best strategy for us to get the most out of our car. But then you get into the race, and then you got to play defense. You got to try to if you're in front of me, and I know this is when you charge, this is when you deploy. After a few laps, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna change this up to get my overtake on. So Oscar
Yeah,
might not be very good with that in these cars. Like he still has pace as a top driver, but he's not showing the same level that Lando is.
yeah. I mean, just speculation. So who who knows? Maybe he'll figure it out and come join the fight. So, well, let's talk about your boy. I know that was probably a very deflating way to start your morning. Um, I think you and I both had high hopes for Max this weekend. We both had him finishing on the podium as a one last hurrah here in Zandvoort. What do you think?
Yeah, terrible way to start my morning. Um, I know his interview. He just kind of said, "I saw a dry spot. I applied power." Yeah, and it sounds very casual from him, but knowing Max, I'm sure he tried to hit the timing perfect to get something going on that front straight to make his race. I mean, he tends to know where to make a move on the first lap or where he needs to make something happen. So I'd imagine that's where it was. Rare mistake from him, but there's also like a corner like that. Once you're gone, you're nope. I
No.
mean, you can
Yes.
he corrected well, but there's no saving it. He was gone.
The the same reason that you love Max is the can be part of what needs to be accounted for in multiple DNFs this season. Is he's going to go for it. That's honestly probably why we saw some of the rear wing failures for Max and not for Hadjar. Is Max is just more aggressive and he's going to push things 10 tenths, and that
Yeah,
just
no,
is a little bit more risk. And so you can kind of see the alignment here of wet weather, low traction. He's not the only driver that lost traction there. You saw people squirming all over the place. You saw Bortoletto spin. By the way, what an insane recovery. And then the fact that Hulkenberg didn't just absolutely T-bone him.
go on
The
YouTube,
replay there,
look up
yeah,
Hulkenberg save Paz Bortoletto. It blew my mind.
it's just a cloud of, I mean, he sees Gabby coming across the road and it's smoke, and has to go right into the smoke, doesn't have anywhere to go, and it's just a 50-50 guess left or right, and he chose correctly and barely missed him, and immediately was on the radio, was like, I almost just killed Gabby. um pretty crazy start. So but
Uh,
yeah, back to Max. Bad luck, right? Is this a
so
number three
weird
curse?
stat with this number three car. Every time he has qualified P7, it's a DNF.
Ooh.
So this is a P7 DNF. Obviously, there's been a lot of things. I think we already talked about the rear wing. Um, he definitely took blame for this one. It was a sorry right away. But yeah, you see that P7 trend, which is just one of those fun stats where you're like, there's something wrong with that. I don't like the number three that he chose. I think go back to your OG number. Yeah, it's just we texted earlier. It's not a good year. As a Max fan, it sucks. It's this is the worst part. Every time my kids have been like in their F1 shirts, super stoked to watch, and I got them saying like, "Go Max, go!" Where's Max? He's crashed every single
You know what
time.
I hear there is that your kids watching with Max gear are bad luck for Max. That's what I hear.
No, we just got them the shirts. Okay, so we're two for two with the shirts. Uh, we were rooting for McLaren after that, but no, it's sad because I'm trying to get my daughter specifically to lock in that. She kept saying, "Oh, that's Max's car." No, that's Liam, and Max isn't coming back into the race. Oh, is Max back yet? I'm like, nope, he's not back in the race. It just like is like, get it in there. He's out. Um, yeah, I don't. It's tough, and I think you nailed it. Max's edge he has is also the knife in his back. So it's just not going to work sometimes. I think with rear wing thing, the the moisture on the track today. It is what it is, and it's just one of those seasons you're going to suck it up. I mean, I know you've done that as a Lando fan. It goes through waves. I mean, if you've been a Charles fan forever, I can't imagine. Like, I love Charles. He's a great racer, but it's
Let's be
pain.
honest, you're doing it to yourself at this point if you're a
It's
Ferrari
pain.
Charles fan.
Um, um,
Where was
I,
Max's ceiling today? Let's say turn 14 doesn't happen. He's in
he
the
started
race. Where do you see him finishing?
P7. Oh, let me.
Liam P7. Think he
Ahead of
finishes ahead
Liam.
of Oscar?
I think he has a chance
Oscar
at Oscar.
P6?
I don't. I think he's beyond the Ferraris. I mean, I think maybe him and
It's a
Oscar fight a
P6.
little bit. Yeah, P6, maybe a P5 because we had a VSC. You never know. Maybe two VSCs technically.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't. I didn't after qualifying. I didn't have super high hopes. I was sitting there thinking that my predictions were terrible. Which, looking at
hmm
them, they weren't terrible. It's just I shouldn't have maxed any of them. But yeah, no, I mean
I think,
it's just unfortunate.
yeah. I mean, in a race, a sprint weekend particularly, you never count Red Bull out. Like, even if they don't get it right and the sprint is kind of so, you're always optimistic that Max is going to find a setup that he enjoys and Red Bull's going to deliver and they're going to turn it around for the race. And this is one of those rare instances that didn't happen. So, yeah, I think they brought relatively fewer upgrades than some of the top teams, and so maybe that had a factor. Um, but yeah, little disappointing.
Yeah, I agree
Unfortunate.
with you. Didn't think anything of it with the sprint because usually, shout out to Liam, he did better than I thought he would this weekend. He just kind of was where he should have been in the Red Bull. Like
hmm
nothing crazy. He did terrify the crap out of me on lap one with Max. They got so close for a few corners, and I was like, they're gonna crash, they're gonna crash, they're gonna crash, and then I would be pissed. And I was like, that is not what Liam wants to do
Yeah,
coming up
you
to
get
the.
like booted from Racing Bulls if you take
Yeah,
Max
you're
out
gone.
battling.
And Liam is the elbows out racer, so that's neither of those guys
This is
wanted
the
to
same guy
give.
that was flipping off Checo when they're fighting for a
Trying to
seat.
take a seat. Yeah. But to not dwell too long. Yeah, normally something like this, Max usually can whip a one lapper out of his butt out of nowhere. So you're like, okay, poor sprint quality, poor sprint. They're gonna tweak it. He's gonna qualify well, and then even if we don't have the pace, he'll make it work. Let's say like potential top four. But like when that didn't happen, all of a sudden it's like, okay, so we're not gonna be good this weekend. You have to accept it. It is what it is, and you hope for some luck. Obviously, it went the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. Fortunately, the race was exciting, so I didn't have to be depressed for was it 72 laps? Yeah.
Speaking of depression, should we talk about the Scarlet
Which
Ferrari?
one?
I These guys cannot help themselves. It is truly not an F1 weekend without some type of mishap or strategy blunder or drama between the drivers at Ferrari. Like, it's just honestly part of their DNA at this point, it feels like.
Dude, I don't. But like I said, for Leclerc fans or Hamilton fans, it's got to be difficult. I feel for Lewis because the lack of information that they had, like it frustrates me. I'm not in the race car. It frustrates me. Like the incomplete sentences of information. Like I understand you want to be quick, but it's like, how are the tires? Good. Nothing. Crickets. Like,
Well, at the beginning, they start off the beginning of the race. Hey, how's the pace feel? I feel good. Don't give him any information that he's losing 1 to 2 seconds on the other cars who have pit. So Lewis is just driving there, being happy, and thinking he's putting in good lap times, not understanding the context of what's going on. So he can't advocate for his own strategy because he's not aware of the facts. And so the communication between the engineers and the drivers continues to be an issue when I look at this team. Um, you also see issues where, Lewis was held up by Leclerc, and pretty obviously Leclerc should have ceded position for the overall team strategy. at that point. And it's one of the most fiery Lewis radios that we've heard in a really long time about like, what the heck are we doing? We're losing time. And it took him like a lap before they called Leclerc in. And so,
Yeah,
he
he waited a whole another
lost
lap.
seconds just waiting there behind Leclerc, which counts, especially when you look at the end of the race and how close he was to George. Like, there was a position,
It's
possibly
a
multiple
podium.
positions on the
It's a
table.
podium.
Yeah. So, he radios after the fact, good job losing time. Did a really good job of losing time there. Um, that's not something you want your driver saying.
No, the guy that you're paying $60 million, that's not
No.
what you want to hear.
Yeah.
It's some of it's simple info. It's like if Lewis knows he's losing 1 to 2 seconds lap early on the race, that changes everything. When Oscar, before they pit Oscar, or doesn't matter, I think right after they pit him, they were saying you need to beat 17.5s
Hmm.
to be where you need to be with the Ferraris. Like that's info. Hey, this is your delta that we need. This is what you need to be putting up. Or hey, it's not not good enough. Or you hear Kimmy's radius. Hey, I think you still need a wider exit out of turn 10. Like that's the kind of info that we never hear from the Ferrari garage. It's like, hey, good luck, guys. We'll tell you when we're going to do something. Kind of box
Yeah.
box. I don't want to go on softs. Well, we're putting you on hards. It's fine.
This We've talked about this before. Part of me wonders if it's truly a language barrier, like if the engineers are Italian and their English just isn't really that good, so they speak less than they should because they're not comfortable speaking English. Like, I really hope that's not the case, but it kind of seems to be sometimes.
I could see that, but they have so much time in the sport, so much money in the sport. There's no way that if that was the issue, that they haven't changed that. But at the same time, like the Ferrari pride is
It's
so strong, I
That's what I'm
kind
saying
of see it.
is, yeah, like our shit don't stink. Like it's really troubling. Um,
Yeah, I don't. That's
the
frustrating.
the icing on the cake for me was Lewis was asked about, hey, hey, we if we have the opportunity here, we might want to go on to new mediums, and Lewis says, well, are they fast? Charles is on them, and they say we're not sure. And Lewis is like, "Oh, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? You guys are the engineers. You have both cars' data. Figure it out."
Yeah, what lap
And
times is he putting up? Like,
yeah, I like such a basic question. And they're like, we're not sure. We're checking. I don't know. And it just speaks to the dysfunction there. Like, that's not how you win races. You got to be on your game. You got to communicate. You got to work as a team. And right now, it's just not flowing.
the way that they
It's
put
not
out
going to happen.
information, it makes me think that when like Schumacher's there, whoever, was it just that dominant that they just did it with that information? Like, oh yeah, box comes in, gets new tires, goes out, no strategy, just race fast, come back in, new tires, go out. Like, is it always been like this? Is it just, oh, we're having a good year, don't have to worry about anything else? Is that the philosophy? I I feel bad for both of them. Um, I think team orders are tough, but I think on this one, Charles should have just let him go
Mm-hmm.
on this straight. If you don't want to pit yet because you want the offset, cool. But Lewis is on your butt, and they've kind of done this all year. Just let him buy it on this one. Like it, if you want the Delta, he's faster. Just let him go.
Well,
You're
you know
for
that you
both
were
of them.
going in earlier. Like, you were going to go in soon regardless. So, I don't know.
That's my point. Instead of holding him up, like try to stay with him. Use the rest of your tires. Maybe get a slipstream here or there. You
But
could make it
you
work.
stay
I don't.
close and you get overtake for a lap.
Yeah, yeah.
It
There's
doesn't make
different
sense to
strategy to
me.
it.
I think it's also at the point where it's starting to impact the driver relationship. Like, I went back and listened to some of the radios, and particularly that last lap move where Leclerc had battery and was trying to go down the inside of Lewis. And Lewis defended, and then Charles had to back out. It looked way more dramatic in the trackside camera, but the
It looked
onboard kind of
stupid
told the
scary on the
story.
trackside.
It looked sketchy on the broadcast. But Charles was peeved. After the race, he pulled alongside Lewis and looked over and shook his head in disappointment. So we're now at the point where not only is strategy an issue, but there's actually like starting to become animosity between the drivers, and that's never a good recipe. So um, Ferrari bot upgrades. It seemed to kind of work. They definitely felt like the third best car as we predicted, but it's going to be difficult to close this gap if you guys are not in unison, moving together and working as a team. So
No, they got to figure it out. And I know one of the interviews afterwards, Charles was saying that like them and Lewis have a good relationship. You know, what happens on track is whatever. I don't remember the exact like quote to it, but they really do need to be in unison moving forward. If you know, there's a constructors battle on the line, and Lewis has been in the points for drivers. It's not just this like, hey, we're in this weird position. So driver wise, let Lewis through in that situation. Like, you
yeah.
know, if y'all are still going to finish in those two positions, it is what it is. But Lewis had decent pace. I feel like they both actually had decent pace this weekend. Charles seemed
Mm-hmm.
consistent through sprint, qualifying, race. Actually, before the race got going, I actually thought Charles was better this weekend because Lewis's qualifying looked poor until
Yeah.
Q3 last lap. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, Lewis is here. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see. Hopefully they get Monza figured out. It's Italian Grand Prix. Charles has had some bad luck there. Uh, that's where they need to work as a team. If they want to, you know, show that pride.
Who knows? Maybe some pizza and some home territory can will them to win and knock this off. I don't know.
They need to have a bro night or something.
Sleepover.
You want to come on my yacht?
Um,
Speaking
um,
of, let's move to Merck.
yeah. Speaking of yachts, um, what do you think about the end of the race there? That was quite interesting to me. I think if I was George, I would be upset. He seemed to handle it pretty well based on his post race interviews and his communication in the cool down room and whatnot. But I'm in a championship fight here, and I'm ahead of the guy that's beating me. And yes, he got fresh tires. He was ahead of me before he pit. But neither one of us at this point really feel like we have a chance to win this race. So can we work as a team so we both finish on the podium? Um, and the team agrees. And then shortly after that, they say, never mind,
Did
let
they
me through.
agree? I didn't
Yeah.
hear. Okay, I thought
I
they
mean,
gave him
it wasn't
crickets.
like, yeah, we're gonna work together and da 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 da, but they were like, yeah, we're looking at our options here. Like I think Mercedes was trying to figure out the right move.
So
Um,
I think George took not the biggest George fan. Always wished the best for him, but like not going to be my primary. I'm rooting for George, probably ever. Just not my favorite. Also, he always bitches about Max, so it's hard to be a fan of him. Like always. I think he took this on the chin pretty well. Like you said, I think the post race and cool down room. I think it was like a PR thing, to be honest. I think he took it well. I think it could be very frustrating, but I think there's also that like almost like humility you have to have of like, hey, he actually beat me this race, regardless of what I wanted to do right there. And I
yeah,
think that inverting the drivers was big, probably a Toto call or team call because Kimi was going to try to pass him with plenty of laps left, so that avoids a collision. That's a Merc safety call. Invert, invert the cars. Done. No
yeah,
fighting. Kimi's going to get him. I have no doubt.
yeah,
And it's a nightmare if they collide. Absolute nightmare. All of a sudden you
yeah. I
have what
guess
double Ferrari podium for constructors. Hamilton jumps up the order. Nightmare.
yeah, you're not wrong. I think the counter to that argument is it definitely left George exposed, and he had to put on one hell of a defense to keep Lewis behind him.
Yeah,
It
that was my
very
next point.
easily could have been Lewis on the podium instead of George.
Yeah, I mean that was my next point. Well done by George to hold that off. I think staying on the other side of that, George stayed out long, and this is a drivers' championship. You could let them fight. So I think if George said no, I don't think that's a poor decision on his part. I think that's going to rub some people wrong, but I think he's been around long enough, and it's kind of like okay, well, it's kind of like Oscar
Yeah.
and Lando. Like you had a couple times where like, okay, I'll do this, and then there's other times where it's like, nope, I don't feel good about that. I'm not going to do that. And I think right now, with how I think if there's 3 laps left in the race, I wouldn't I wouldn't do that. I'm
Yeah.
not swapping. Like he's gonna have to pass me. It is what it is. But there's
I
like
think
9 or 10 laps left. I mean, come on, it's a long time to hold off Kimmy. And I have too many points for this one because I thought about this one earlier. And on top of that, Lewis was catching Kimmy. If George fights Kimmy, all of a sudden you have a 4 stack of cars right there. George is on old
mhm.
tires, so then you're risking collision. Kimmy's not getting away with P2, and then all of a sudden, if George gets passed by Lewis and Kimmy, and Lewis is on Kimmy's butt, like the positions could change drastically here. It's just it could have got messy. I think this is the
it
easiest solution for Mercedes.
it was a little bit of a lose-lose for George. I think he, to give him credit, I think he did a good job, took it on the chin, but I think it's got to sting. Your teammate kicked your butt in the first half of the season. You come back from summer break, you take sprint pole and a sprint win, and then you qualify on the front row for the race, and then all of a sudden pace falls away. Kimmy gets ahead of you. Team decision. Let him through. Um,
It's a
I
whirlwind
mean,
race,
yeah.
emotionally.
So I don't know. I think George is just in a weird spot this season. You come into it as championship favorite and then have a second year driver um, rain all over your parade. And that's got to be weird. You're mixed up in rumors about, your team principal potentially replacing you with Max Verstappen and uh, your nemesis, by the
Yeah,
way. um, so I don't know. He's definitely been on a roller coaster ride this season. That's for sure.
yeah. He looked decent this weekend. Like I said, I think he just took it on the chin. It is what it is. I think there wouldn't have been a team call if they're closer in points.
Yeah,
I don't think that'd be
yeah,
fair to ask.
and we may be being too harsh on him, right? Like you zoom out big pictures, like he got P3 at the end of the day. This was not a bad race, right? Um, P2 was probably his ceiling, but very clearly was not in the position to get that. And so maybe that factors into it as he really just feels like, yeah, P3 was my ceiling today. I didn't really have much opportunity to finish higher than that. So um, maybe that softens the blow a little bit for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we said, solid defense, finished where he could. Mercedes covered their butts. It is what it is. Let's let's talk about my favorite part of the race. To be honest, the
Okay.
midfield. First of all, this is no knock on Gasly's day. For like 20 minutes, it was like a Pierre Gasly gets owned door slam montage. He just like he'd get a move done, door slam. Something else would happen, double overtake on him. Like it just seemed like he was receiving the brunt end of everything for a little while, and I was dying. But the midfield was spicy.
We had some fun there. I found it humorous that Liam and Yuki and Lindblad were all mixed up at certain points throughout the race. I also had my prediction of Alpine and Aston points for my X Factor, and it hit. It hit. I predicted that. But at one point, Alonso was P11 and Gasly was P10. And I was like, if Alonso passes Gasly to get points and it knocks Alpine out, I'm going to be so sad. Um, and yeah, it worked out. But yeah, definitely an interesting back half of points finishes. So we got Liam P7, Nico P8, Alonso P9, Gasly P10, uh, and then Yuki Lindblad, Bortoleto, Colapinto, Checo Signs. So um, there was a few drivers in there that got compromised with some penalties. Lindblad and Colapinto, and Gabby had the spin in lap one. Um, and then all of this got mixed up with Hadjar being out with his wrist/hand injury. So that meant Liam moved to Red Bull and Yuki stepped in at Racing Bulls. And so when Lindblad got a penalty and you've got Yuki who's still getting up to speed in that car, that opened the door. And that's why you see Audi, Aston, and Alpine all taking advantage of that opportunity and earning some points this weekend. So it was a very strange, like, turn of events and domino effect of like Hadjar misses a race and then all of a sudden you get these three midfield teams coming in the points versus our typical like P9, P10 V carb.
Yeah, no, it was chaos. It was fun to watch in the middle. It was like P8 to like P13 was so close together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bummer. Lindblad got compromised by the penalty, but he actually had a pretty good comeback to try to get in there for a while.
Yeah.
I said something about Liam earlier, kind of finished where you would expect him to be in the top 10, just jumping in. Yuki is the one that surprised me because I said I thought he was gonna come in and suck, like not did not
I
perform how Racing Bulls have been, but he
yeah.
wasn't that far off Lindblad for a decent amount of qualifying.
No, I think it was less than a tenth behind Lindblad in qualifying. P12. Lindblad started P10, I think, so it was pretty close there for those few positions. But you have to go back a while to remember this, but Yuki had quite a bit of success in VCARB before he moved on to Red Bull, and so he's not a bad driver. Obviously, the disadvantage is that this is a new car and completely new driving style and all kinds of new things to learn. However, what we don't see is he's the third driver and does a lot of time on the sim for the team. And so, yes, he hasn't been on track, but he's also experienced these cars to some degree. It's always different in person, but um, I think he and Liam have to be pretty pleased with today's result. I don't think Liam could have really done any better given the circumstances. I think he made a good case for himself that he deserves a seat, whether it's a Red Bull, Racing Bulls, or somewhere else. And I think Yuki may have made some people blink with this. For a while there, I think the commentators spoke that he was doing some testing for IndyCar, was maybe going to move series. Well, I think this finish raises the question of should he have a seat in F1 here? So,
Yeah,
when we look at things like is Ocon going to be around? Is Bottas going to be around? Who's going to be at Alpine? Like, there's still some seats available here. So, could get interesting.
Yuki qualified well. I don't know if we really spoke on it. Liam was right there with Max for quali for basically the whole weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he proved he's having a good year. I think the side note of that is I don't think the Red Bull car was there this weekend. Not taking a knock from him, but I don't think there's very many people that can actually qualify that close to Max when the car's in line. But
No.
I could be completely wrong. Liam might just be that good and we don't know. Yeah, no, midfield was fun. Hulkenberg was my favorite to watch. I feel like he had that great dodge of Bortoleto, which I did not see till after the race. But the midfield fight was great. Felt bad for Gasly, still got the points. It was a good time. So
I think Audi has to be very happy this weekend. They were one of those handful of teams that didn't bring any upgrades, and so to finish P8 with Nico, who has frankly struggled in recent times, and I think Bortoleto would have been right there with him if not
because
for
Bortoleto qualified
his spin.
P8, P9, P9.
Um, check here.
I want to say it's P8. I can't remember who qualified P9 now.
Uh, P9.
P9. So no,
Yep.
Lindblad was 10. Yeah, so I mean, they looked good. That's great news for them. If they bring some upgrades, they might be bringing it. And Audi's having a pretty good year.
Yeah, we talked about this before. They're building on some success as Sauber kind of wrapped up there and transitioned, and they've had some shakeup with some of the team leadership. But yeah, I think you have to be happy, especially when you look at where the other teams are in comparison. Alpine, um, they're kind of in a weird spot. They brought 8 upgrades. They brought the most upgrades of any team. Didn't really show. Gasly, not bad. Definitely got beat a number of times there in the middle of the race. And again, Colapinto was compromised with some penalties here. But you bring that number of upgrades, I think you probably have higher expectations than a P10, P14 finish for that car.
I would imagine.
So
I mean, to Gasly's defense, he did have some moves that people played solid defense on, so he might have been looking at a P8, but not a crazy improvement on the amount of upgrades they had. I know Lindblad got him bad on that the straight down was at the beginning of sector 3, the old DRS detection zone. I can't remember what part of the sector that is. Williams, breaking news: Williams re-signed both of their drivers, and they decided to party at turn 1.
Yeah, with a nice high five between their drivers there. Um, yeah, Albon takes some damage, brings out the safety car that kind of introduced some of the drama with Kimi pitting for softs and some different things happening there. I think they've got to be really disappointed. Again, we're not going to see this upgrade package until Baku. I think pretty squarely you can say they're a bottom 3 team right there with Haas and Cadillac. I think we kind of skipped over Aston and we'll get to them, but it does feel like Aston should be expected to be faster than Williams at this point, at least until that upgrade happens. So Sainz, I think, is the most disappointing part of this entire race. P16 gets beat by Checo. Not a great finish.
No, and Cadillac's they're still a step down. So
I mean, first season in F1, they're working through it, but the fact of the matter is Cadillac's the worst team, and so to get beat by one of those cars speaks volumes about where that Williams is and the type of day that they had. So not good.
And there's no point to have contact against your teammate in that position.
Yeah, you both just got re-signed. You're both safe. You've got a seat for next year. You're not fighting in the drivers' championship, and neither one of you are close to the points. And so it was a mistake. Carlos locked up, but you really shouldn't have the cars in that position anyway. I would have to go back and watch the rewind whether this was Carlo coming up the inside of Albon or Albon trying to hang it out and go around Sainz on the outside. But regardless of whose fault it is, you shouldn't be side by side like that when you're in the back part of the field and all you're doing is spending money at this point.
I'd be pissed if I were Vows, to be honest.
Yeah.
I did skip over Aston, so let's jump back.
Sure, we can go to Aston. I want to make sure we talk about Haas too. I was optimistic, and we kind of got a split thing here. I was a little wary that we were going to see some reliability issues. Stroll did DNF. At the time when I was doing my research, there wasn't much conversation about what the cause of that was. Maybe we know now. I'm not sure. But yeah, Alonso had in terms of broadcast, a fairly quiet weekend. I saw some clips on social media about, he didn't have a stellar sprint. Active Arrow failed during sprint quali, started way at the back. Has a big impact on drag, and so that can be expected. But I think he finished like P18 or P19 in the sprint. It really wasn't anything impressive, but he did have some impressive moves, some of his overtakes. And so, when we talk about Alonso still having the motivation and the drive, there's still flashes of that same world champion energy. So, um,
Give the man a
seems like
race
this
car.
worked for him. P9, I think at least Alonso, you have to assume, again, very small sample size. At this point, I'm assuming that Alonso is going to be in that mix around P10, whether it's P9 to P12, P13, kind of feels like where he should
That
be
group that
based on
was
what we're
fighting,
seeing.
yeah, yeah, in there.
Yeah, yeah. And who knows where Stroll is, because at any given weekend he could drive himself into a gravel
Like I said,
trap.
I don't know what his
So
failure was. So I don't know if he had issues for the entirety of the race and then the DNF. But seeing Alonso up there kind of hits where I was saying,
epiphany.
yes,
Stroll leaves the sport, goes and drives for WEC. Yuki,
jumps
Honda
to Aston.
driver, goes to Aston.
No, but it's a great epiphany. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I want it to happen. I want it to happen so bad.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. But I think Aston, based on Alonso's finish, how he talked about it in the preview, they need to be above Williams on this upgrade. So I think it's fair to say there were some factors in with safety cars and whatnot in the chaotic start, but um, I think Alonso P9 is like the best result you could have thought of coming in with a new engine. I mean, you're not expecting to be you're expecting to be below P8 based on the top teams. So a
Yeah,
P9 is outstanding.
yeah. I mean, even if Max wasn't, because position gained with Max's crash, so that's still a P10 on merit, um, given the Hadjar and Racing Bulls and Red Bull shakeup. They got to be happy. This is something to build on. So hopefully more upgrades coming soon for
Yeah,
them.
I hope they turn it around a little bit. Just a
Yeah.
little bit.
We already talked about Cadillac a little bit. Bottas DNF, Checo P15 finishing ahead of Sainz again. I really think that says more about Williams than Cadillac at this point. So, and then Haas double DNF. So we had Behrman DNF. I think was that on the formation lap
Red
right
flag.
after the
Yeah,
restart.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we
Formation.
had a abandoned start for the restart, and then Ocon to failure later in the race, bringing out a VSC. So not a great weekend for them. Again, another one of those teams with zero upgrades. It really just feels like they're floundering right now. They don't have a driver. They don't have a vision. They don't have any kind of hopes. They're nowhere near the front.
They're
Um,
a disaster. If I were Behrman, I'm checked out and hoping for that Ferrari seat sooner than later. Obviously, you want to perform the best you can, but I mean, if I were him, I'd be just like twitching of like, hey, I've been promised this seat, and I'm stuck over here in this hellhole right now. Like, get me out of here, guys! Come on.
Honestly, if I'm Behrman and there's no other options, Cadillac is starting to look a little appetizing. There,
Yeah,
I don't know what are they bringing their own engine next year, or is it another year after that? I'm not sure, but right now they have the Ferrari engine too, and so there is that relationship as a Ferrari driver academy with the Ferrari engine. Uh, I feel like I'd rather invest in Cadillac than in Haas right now. Like at least Cadillac they're not having great results, but they're doing things. There's at least a little bit of momentum and an effort. Haas, maybe the package is delayed and we're just not seeing it yet, but oof, it's
it's
rough.
falling quick though. If you want to keep up, it's rough.
Yeah,
Ocon, not a great year. We both kind of think he's on the way out. He's had a couple decent results. Behrman hasn't had great results. Had some bad luck. That one hurts me more because I know he's a quality racer, and I mean, it's just showing they don't have anything. He's at the back, so yeah, the Cadillac idea poses some questions. Yeah, they're just bad. Nothing to show.
Yeah, I mean it makes me concerned about Behrman's future when you have a talent like that there's no opportunity for him at a top team right now, and so he's just sitting there stagnant. And when you're in a car that can't finish a race, you're not necessarily growing. And so this is one of those things that can actually like stunt the growth of a career if you're kind of caught in this shitty situation for too long. And I hope that's not the case. I hope he finds a way to get some opportunities soon.
I agree. Obviously, I think any of these drivers, if they leave F1, have opportunities in other areas of racing, but I would like to see him at a top team. I think he is a great talent. I mean, you saw just a little taste of him in that Ferrari car with no warning. I think, like you said, I think the Cadillac option would be pretty cool. I don't think they're bringing their own power unit next year. I think we have another year, so that would be interesting. Are you looking that up right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out. I can't remember. That was a while ago. Yeah, I mean, it's sad. We've talked about a couple drivers that that's happened to. I think Liam kind of took a hit like that. I think he's proven himself this year, but I think his little stint at Red Bull hurt a lot. But he's having a good bounce back year. We talked about a couple people. Like I think Gasly's better than he's seemed career wise. I don't think he's like top notch of the group, but I think he's better than he's been able to show at Alpine.
Yeah.
And who the heck
I
knows what
guess
Alonso's career would look like?
he's he's been the victim of circumstance more than once in his career, whether it's going to McLaren or Alpine or some of these different decisions. Be quite interesting. So Cadillac is going to carry Ferrari engine at least until 2029. The
Okay.
thing that is interesting is we're now talking about V8s returning in 2030 or 2031. So we may only see 1 or 2 seasons with this Cadillac V6 hybrid. Baffling.
Or
So
if I were them, I would extend with Ferrari and then focus on the V8.
yeah, I think I agree. Once it gets locked in of like 2030, we're going V8s. What's the point of spending all this time? I mean, they've already invested a ton of money, honestly, but what's the point of investing more money for an engine that's only going to have a shelf life of 1 year, and then you're going to need to develop a brand new
Yeah, I
engine?
would
Just
be
shift gears now.
I'd be greatly surprised if they didn't just extend. Unless Ferrari's like, nah, develop it yourself. It's all right.
Or the Ferrari engine is just so crap that they decide to go with another supplier. Well, should
Ironically,
we?
Ford powertrains.
I'd love to see Ford actually legitimately in the sport. Should we jump to prediction summary here and wrap
Yeah,
up?
yeah, did pretty good.
So pretty good for both of us. Again, I think Max's crash definitely hurt the potential here, but um, I think our predictions were so similar that we were basically destined to get a similar amount of points here. We're
We're
gonna
both
have to
hoping
like
Max had a good
introduce.
like curtain call at the Dutch Grand Prix.
You're gonna have to get like an extra bonus point if you predict the winner rather than just saying the podium. Like our podium prediction should actually be P1, P2, P3, not just if the name shows up on the podium. So we'll take a look at that. So anyway, front row predictions. I had Lando Max. You had Max Kimmy. So we both go 1-1 there. Podium predictions. I had Lando Max Kimmy. So I would have gotten that bonus point, but I'm not going to change the rules.
We'll do that from
And then
now
you
on. We'll do
had
that from now on because that's our
so
order. If you predict
so
the winner, you have a bonus point.
yep, yep. And then you had Max Kimmy Lando. So 2 for 3, both of us there.
Not bad.
Guess the grid. That was P5.
Nailed
It was
it.
close. I had
Nailed it.
Lewis. You had Charles. Lewis finished P4. So we nailed it, and you just picked the right driver. So good on you. And then X Factors, you had George pit stop problems. I don't think there was
I
really
actually meant
anything
Oscar,
there.
but It's okay. I think you typed it
Yeah, I
wrong.
think if you had said Oscar, it would have counted. He had a rough go there, but mine hit. I said both Aston and Alpine needed to be in the points. If it was only one, then it didn't count. So that hit. So 4 points for both of us, and that brings our total score to 8 for you, and I have 7. So it
It's
stays
close.
close.
We didn't shoot ourselves in the foot this time.
I didn't have 6 X factors that brought me down, so that helped.
Oh, no, we're tied. You did not subtract a point from me for my X Factor.
Oh,
I'm an
good
honest
call.
person. Look at that.
Yes, appreciate that.
Yep, I got you. Let it be known I am honest.
That's what happens when I do this at 8 a.m. on a Sunday.
8 a.m. on a Sunday. Gotta be kidding me. You
My
don't
kids don't wake
understand
up
my
at 4
life.
a.m.
Yeah, it's a rough morning. Um,
But I digress. So we got Monza coming up, week gap Monza coming up. We'll have another video that'll come out this week. We'll figure out what we want to talk about. And
revisit
yeah,
drivers or constructors. We'll see.
I like that.
Thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, not the doubleheader, but once again, sorry for the lack of energy on my part. I feel terrible, but we're here. But we'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Let's go, Lando!